Avocado compost trick makes thousands of worms appear in 72 hours. Most gardeners wait weeks, sometimes even months, to see real changes in their soil. So, when I poured a simple avocado-based compost mix onto one of my tired garden beds and found it swarming with thousands of worms, only 3 days later, it honestly felt like unlocking a hidden cheat code. The soil was suddenly alive, rich, and visibly transformed. And here's the best part. The formula that caused this explosion of worm activity is incredibly easy to make, fully organic, and uses scraps many gardeners already have on hand. The moment you understand why avocado compost works so fast, you'll want to try it immediately. What makes it powerful isn't magic, it's biology. Avocado flesh is loaded with oils, soft fibers, and micronutrients that break down quickly into exactly the kind of microbial buffet soil organisms love. When those microbes multiply, worms follow. They're drawn in by scent, moisture, and microbe activity, and when they arrive, they begin aerating, feeding, tunneling, and leaving behind castings richer than any store-bought fertilizer. Once you see it in action, it's really hard to go back to traditional slow composting. Why avocado compost works so fast? Avocado breaks down faster than most kitchen scraps because its fats and soft tissues are easily colonized by bacteria and fungi. As those microbes multiply, heat rises in the soil's top layer, not the high heat of hot compost, but the gentle warmth that signals fresh food to worms. Even more important is the moisture content. When blended into a slurry, avocado becomes a naturally hydrating compost tea that spreads through soil pores and attracts worms from deeper layers almost immediately. Another factor is its perfect carbon-to-nitrogen balance. While it's not a full fertilizer on its own, the combination of avocado pulp, peel fibers, and added compost makes an irresistible mix. Worms sense this nutrient spike and migrate rapidly toward it. Gardeners who rely on chemical fertilizers never get this effect because chemicals feed plants, not microbes. Avocado compost feeds the entire soil ecosystem. So, the original experiment that triggered the worm explosion actually used a pretty simple 3-ingredient formula. The key, really, is blending it into a smooth, pourable slurry so that the nutrients can actually penetrate the soil instead of just sitting on top of it. Here's the precise mix you'll need. 2 ripe avocados, including the skins but without the pits, 2 cups of finished compost, and 2 liters of water. Now, just blend everything until it's smooth. The result should be thick but still pourable, kind of like a heavy compost tea. If you find it's too thick, just add an extra 250 milliliters of water. This dilution is important because it ensures the mix spreads across the soil surface and sinks in quickly, creating microbial activity within just a few hours. Once your mix is ready, pour it directly around the root zone or across the bed you want to revive. No digging, no turning, and no covering required. Within 48 to 72 hours, you'll start noticing wormholes, fresh castings, and moist soil clusters forming where the mix soaked in. Honestly, it's one of the fastest biological responses you'll ever see in a garden system. The avocado compost mix works best in areas with depleted soil containers that need a biological boost or raised beds where worms haven't naturally established themselves. Even pots benefit, because the slurry introduces microbes that rebuild structure and prevent compaction. In open beds, the effect can be dramatic. The worms not only come for the food, they stay, multiply, and begin fertilizing the area long after the initial feeding disappears. If you work with clay soil, the results are even more noticeable. The oils and organic matter soften heavy particles and increase pore space, giving worms a perfect environment to tunnel through. Sandy beds improve as well because the mix adds moisture retention and reduces nutrient loss. Avocado compost is rare in that it works across nearly all soil types with the same biological intensity. Once worms arrive, they begin the real work. Every tunnel they create improves air circulation and water infiltration. Every casting they leave behind is a concentrated packet of plant-ready minerals, beneficial microbes, and natural growth hormones. In as little as a week, the surface of your soil begins to look different, darker, looser, richer. In a month, the structure changes entirely. If you've ever wanted soil that stays moist longer, drains better, and grows stronger plants with fewer inputs. This simple avocado mix becomes a powerful foundation. Even more impressive is the long-term biological shift. When the soil becomes active, beneficial fungi spread, microbial populations stabilize, root penetration increases, your plants respond with stronger stems, deeper color, and more vigorous growth. That's the real secret behind the dramatic worm attraction. Once you jumpstart biology, nature takes over. So, one application is usually enough to activate a bed for several weeks. But, if you're building new soil or trying to restore a neglected area, it's best to apply it every 4 to 6 weeks. Just remember, don't over-apply. Too much organic slurry in a short time can really throw off the balance. Think of this as a powerful microbial starter, not your typical routine fertilizer. After say 2 to 3 rounds, the bed starts to become self-sustaining as worm populations stabilize and the castings begin to accumulate. Container growers can use it more sparingly. A half-liter of the mix per medium pot is plenty. For large raised beds, the full 2-liter batch covers about 1 to 2 square meters evenly. Common mistakes gardeners make with avocado compost. Well, some gardeners use only avocado skins, expecting the same effect. Skins do help, but the real worm-attracting power comes from the flesh and oils. Others bury whole avocados, which works but honestly takes weeks instead of days. The slurry method is uniquely fast because it removes all barriers to decomposition. Another common mistake is applying the mix to bone-dry soil. Always water the bed lightly first. Moisture activates microbes and helps the slurry penetrate deeply rather than crusting on the surface. Finally, avoid mixing the slurry into the soil. Leave it on top. Worms feed from above, pulling nutrients down naturally. Nature handles the mixing better than any tool. This technique is one of those rare gardening methods that works for beginners and experts alike. It's quick, visible, repeatable, and backed by soil biology. It doesn't rely on store-bought products, doesn't demand expensive compost systems, and doesn't require guesswork. If you love understanding how soil life works, and if you want methods that genuinely transform your garden, this is the kind of experiment that delivers results worth sharing. Seeing thousands of worms appear in 3 days is more than exciting. It's proof that your soil can come back to life faster than you might think, using ingredients already sitting in your kitchen. If you found this guide helpful, make sure to subscribe, like the video, and share it with other gardeners who want to turn their soil into a living ecosystem.